Welcome to TechMark Pod, where we innovate, discuss, and discover the dynamic intersection of technology and marketing. In each episode, we explore how businesses can leverage both to drive growth and innovation. Meet Alvin, our esteemed host for TechMark Pod. With over 15 years of experience as a renowned marketer, project manager, and software as a service architect, join us as we uncover the unique value proposition of integrating technology and marketing strategies, helping you stay ahead in this fast-paced digital world.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to TechMark Pod. Today, I've been joined by Pamela Guanzura. So it so happens that I'm actually related to Pamela. It's not like I'm handpicking my relatives into the podcast, but it's unfortunate that, we are major players in marketing and tech. So it becomes obvious that I have to interview my relatives into this podcast. Pamela, welcome to TechMark Pod.
Thank you so much, Alvin. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be part of this conversation and the space that Alvin is in.
Thank you, ma'am. I was looking forward to this podcast for some time now. After learning a lot about your brand as Pamela and what you're doing in Zimbabwe and what you have done and what you've achieved over 15 years in marketing. That's really like a real big achievement in marketing. I want you to give us, the history, where you started and what you started and where you have been to where you are now.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you a few highlights because, hey, if I have to kind of go into detail, we'd be here all day, Alvin. So I'll just give you a few highlights. I started my career at Low Linters. My profession in terms of qualification is really more within the marketing space. And I did also do my master's, which is I did an executive MBA, with MSU after doing my marketing and my media studies. So I started my career at Low Linters, which was a big agency, in the 90s, and it was headed by Albert Now. And I started in the media space in terms of media planning and buying. And I moved on from there and I moved on to Ogilvy, which was Barker's Ogilvy. And I joined them there within the media planning and buying space as well. And I then got elevated to become the media manager, managing that whole section of media, buying strategy, and all that. And while I was at Ogilvy, it was really the space where I grew the most in terms of my agency experience, because I was able to grow from just being a junior media planner, buyer, all the way to becoming a media manager, heading the team that was doing all the media planning and buying. But then not only that, I was then further elevated to become a media director. And when I became media director, I actually sat on the board for Ogilvy Zimbabwe. I became part of the board of directors in Zimbabwe. And yeah, that was a lot of experience, because during my tenure at Ogilvy, I also became the chairperson for the Media Directors Forum in Zimbabwe as a whole, which was all the creme de la creme ad agencies in Zimbabwe. We used to meet as media directors, and every time the media would do anything that was out of line, we would hold them to account. So if there were ads that were not printed properly, we would demand that they be reprinted. We were just quite a force as an industry. And when we spoke, to advocate for anything, the powers that be would always listen. So that's how powerful that Media Directors Forum was. And we were also very influential in just, bringing change into the whole advertising industry and space. So those were exciting times. And what was interesting, Alvin, about the whole, ad agency space was that I look at it back, I look back at it now, and I'm like, the advertising that's happening now is not it's not as organic as it was back then.
Okay.
Neither was the level or depth of creativity as rich as it was back then. Back then, we would have guys that would come in, like creative department, just had crazy guys. They were allowed to come into the office in shorts, we all, like all the managers, we would always say, no, let them think the way they want. So you'd have crazy little guys coming in their shorts and they'll be like, yeah, it's because I need space to think, and they were always excused.
Do you have any example of maybe a popular ad in Zimbabwe that you remember?
Yeah. We did a lot of ads. Like while I was at Barker's, we did a lot of ads. For barbers and Mikos. But when I was at Hash 3, because when I was at Barker's Ogilvy, I then decided to tap into the marketing side. So I moved to another agency, which was called DDB Hash 3, which was being headed by Chris Sachikonye. And at that one, I then delved more into my marketing space. So I was the head of client services that side. Yeah. So I was then handling all the clients directly in terms of pitching, in terms of, directing the creative space, as well as delivery, to the client. So back then, we did amazing ads for Barclays. That was one of our lead clients. We did a whole lot of ads for Delta as well, because we had quite a number of their juices and beverages that were under us. And then one outstanding ad that we did that really caused some controversy was a number one stores ad that we did.
Yeah.
We just, the creative department was being headed by one crazy guy who was called Denford Magora, who later owned his own agency, actually, which did very well, called Jericho. It's still there right now. But that ad flighted only for one day, but it got viewership and controversy that stopped things running for almost a month. And basically what he did, the ad just had a picture of a lady who was facing the other side, but then her whole back, like her whole upper half, she wasn't dressed, although she was facing that way.
Goodness.
And then the bottom of the ad just had, kana usina kupfeka number one stores, hauna kupfeka. And that ad
was a little bit sus of an ad
for one day, but it had the whole community in uproar. And guess what?
Yeah.
The brief was actually applauded because suddenly number one stores was very topical on people's lips.
That's the thing.
So
I don't think there's bad publicity. I think you won on that one.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of interesting things. Then just very quickly, I also then moved from Hash 3 and crossed the border to Botswana, where I went to head client services at Optima McCann Erickson, which was another international ad agency. And there I was heading client services as well. And while I was there, I was handling our agency was the top agency for Standard Chartered Bank. So we did all their, visual identity, making sure that, it's aligned to the international brand. And we did a lot of work under that. Then while I was in Botswana, I decided to also just tap into radio. So I moved to Gabs FM, and I moved there as a commercial director, where again, I was heading the marketing department, but I was 2IC to the station manager. So that was a very interesting run because it was marketing, but in a radio space. And when I came back home to Zimbabwe, it made me a great candidate for ZFM, which was just being pioneered in Zimbabwe. And I became part of the team that actually saw it come to light and also just, brought it to life in terms of branding, positioning, and identity. So it's been an interesting career. And it's one of those where you literally can pick this and then say, Pam, what do you think about this? Because my career is spun into media, it's spun into marketing, it's spun into radio, and then it's just spun also into the marketing and PR space, where I've done a lot of consultancy for the for the United Nations, for a whole lot of other companies. So yeah, in a nutshell, I
Amazing.
would say that's part of the adventure, Alvin.
So, I had a misconception. I want to correct this. Now I'm being corrected. I love it. When
Yeah.
when growing up in Zimbabwe and I went to MSU and I started marketing, at no point did I even understand that there were ad agencies in Harare or any part of Zimbabwe. I didn't know. I didn't know that there were ad agencies in any part of the country. So my misconception was thinking that when you finish marketing, you need to join, a corporate or a company where you then join the marketing department without going to an agency. So now that you worked in an agency, it really corrects that misconception that I had all along. I thought
Mhm.
this was like the setup in South Africa that we have in Zim.
Yeah. So no, Zim was, in terms of it's it in terms of ad agency space,
Yeah.
it was, very organized and very established in terms of just ad agencies which were going places and which were clearly defined in terms of their mandate. Because again, we had a scenario where a whole lot of the agencies that were existing were actually full service agencies. That means they were doing both media side as well as the
Marketing.
creative side.
Okay.
Then it's only, I think later on, going into the 2000s, that we started having specialized agencies that were now just doing media planning, media buying, and media strategy, without actually touching the creative side. So yeah, and I would, hasten to say, Alvin, for each, like for the creative side, we also had like a creative directors forum, which was very defined. And what was always interesting about these forums is that they took the mandate of meeting as forums very seriously. And coming out of each forum would be very tangible results that would impact the industry and for the better, you know. And so it was almost like there were watchdogs that were there to make sure things are going, a certain way. It's not the same anymore. Like right now, as we speak, there's a bit of chaos. But back then, there was integrity within that
There's a little bit
space.
of chaos.
And there was pride in how agencies executed their jobs and how each outcome and output that came out of the agencies would be looked at. And there was that pride also, even in the international affiliations. You'd find that Ogilvy, Barkas was associated with Ogilvy International. If you looked at Saatchi and Saatchi, they were also internationally affiliated. If you looked at DDB #3, they were internationally affiliated to DDB Group worldwide. So yeah, it was a very interesting space, and it has a strong heritage, because when we look back at the forefathers of advertising from back then, I
Yeah.
can tell you right now, we can sift very tangible campaigns that they did, which if we put in the space even now, they would still stop people in their tracks.
Sure. I can see the way you speak about this with a lot of passion. It's something that is very close to you, you know.
Definitely.
So, how was your transition? You worked in Botswana and Zimbabwe. How was the transition from Botswana to Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe to Botswana? Either way,
Yeah.
how was your transition?
So I'll quickly touch on the transition from Zimbabwe to Botswana. The time that I moved to Botswana was the time when it was like 2008.
Yeah.
And inflation was at its peak. Deadline. I mean, when it came to quotations that we were doing to for clients, a quotation was not allowed to go beyond 24 hours, because within 48 hours, a quotation could have doubled or tripled. So quotations that we were doing for clients were only valid for 24 hours straight. So when I moved to Botswana, so there was a sense of urgency for all the ad agencies that would be working in Zimbabwe. Everything had to be swift, everything had to be timed, and there was a go-getter attitude whenever you got a job or whenever you were quoting a client. So when I went to Botswana now, there was no hurry in the Kalahari. There was
Yeah.
absolutely no hurry there, Things were
Yeah.
stable there. And so I found myself at like 300 kilometers ahead of everybody else. And everybody's like looking at me, like Botswana, especially the
Yeah.
locals.
Like, are
They
you
were
okay?
looking at me with that eye, Yakuti, excuse me, sister. Chichi amurgunyanyo manyira, like. So, because every single thing I was doing, I would then be following up because I just had it in me, that sense of urgency coming from here. That's
Yeah.
when I think it was the creative director from Optima McCann where I was working. He then just sent me an email to say, Pam, slow down. Quotations here are valid for 3 weeks, Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit of a transition because it was almost like you're coming from fast pace. And not only are you slowing down, but you're literally going dead slow,
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of adjusting to the culture there, to the work, and to the modus operandi in terms of how they operated. Then fast forward, transition back to Zimbabwe. Yeah, from Botswana back to Zimbabwe. Yeah, the transition back to Zimbabwe was interesting because again, Zimbabwe has its own culture, and that fast-pacedness has never changed. So it was literally just switching back to the gear of fast mode, where you move with pace. But then the crucial thing, which was the shift in terms of the engagement, was just realizing that, again, in Zimbabwe, you don't move forward unless you've got a network. You don't move forward unless you actually know someone who's within the space where you're trying to go. Yeah. So for me, coming back to Zim, it was really a case of re-engaging people that I knew before I left. And
Okay.
at first I thought, am I going to be able to do that? But I'm happy to say I'm really back to where I was. I was able to re-engage a lot of my colleagues that I knew before I left. And we were able to rekindle the relationships that we had. And that also just opened the whole world to great strides in terms of then navigating space.
And how's the Botswana market? How would you
So the
describe the
Botswana
Botswana
market,
market compared to Zim market, basically?
okay, so the Botswana market, the key word there is slow. It's much slower than the
Slow.
Zimbabwe
Yeah.
market. Yeah. I will re-emphasize that there is no hurry in the Kalahari.
Yeah.
Yeah, that people are a bit laid back, but however, their big brother is South Africa. So their standards in terms of where they want to go and their levels of excellence are South Africa. Yeah. I mean, it is South Africa. So you'll find that a lot of their big space in terms of senior positions, like when I moved to Botswana, all the jobs I did were very much within the executive space in terms of senior management. And the locals were never really that happy to have a foreigner coming through to be above them. But in their own circles, they would always whisper, did you say Pam is the one leading that project? Great. So it's going to go well. Do you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they've got a big workforce of Zimbabweans in key positions. And because of that, the execution in terms of operations and in terms of getting things done is actually very good because they then have Kanauti as CEO right at the top, but
Yeah.
the general manager who's actually doing the work would be the Zimbabwean. So they execute and they do work well, and the whole organization as a whole is lifted up. So yeah, bottom line, I would say the two different markets are very, very different, but the levels of execution, Zimbabwe is definitely ahead in terms of being fast paced, in terms of being watchful of insights and alive to opportunities. But Botswana is really shielded by how their standard is South Africa. And so you can see that each corporate strives to have the levels of excellence that South Africa sets for them, in terms of pace.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about Zimbabwe. Let's talk about the media, the PR, the marketing space in Zimbabwe. How has it changed over the years? And what do you see as the future of Zimbabwe's PR, marketing, and media space?
Okay, so in terms of just that space, there's a lot, that has happened over the years.
Yeah.
And part of what I kind of like lament is the forums that I mentioned earlier, which existed mainly to keep people in their tracks, to keep organizations in their tracks. Because you see, those forums would house all the, like, for example, the Media Directors Forum would house all the agencies, all the key agencies in Zimbabwe, and they would speak with one voice because all the agencies would sit around that table. Yeah. Right now, we do have the organization called ZAPA, which is like an umbrella body for other agencies, which is supposed to do that as well for all other agencies, And I would say that when I think of where that space is today, it's a little bit it's a bit shallow now in terms of really activating certain principles, really activating certain fundamental integral things that keep everybody in their tracks. At the moment, I would say that there's a lot of like, if you like, individualism in terms of how people are doing things. It's no longer like we had back in the day where you would do what you're doing, but you had a certain parameter within which you would stay because you knew you didn't want to put the industry in disrepute. So you had principles that were clearly laid out that you would stick to ensure that you're upholding certain values, certain standards, and certain integral things that have been agreed on by an industry as a whole. So yeah, where it is right now, I just feel like there's a lot of briefcase kind of agencies that just wake up and they're just on the whim. And sometimes they are very short term in terms of their orientation. It's like, I want a quick buck now,
And out.
but there isn't that long-term focus and long-term vision that the traditional agencies had, where they wanted to grow with the brand and see the brand really mature and age, productively. So I see a lot of, like quick fixes that are there. And because of that, I feel like the future of marketing and media is not that safe, or it's not that predictable. It's a bit chaotic because people are just doing what they want, and there's no longer that policing that keeps people in a very like operable way.
So it's more like change that has happened and disrupted the industry, but it's not a good change in a way because
Yeah, yeah,
we're moving away from the policy, the frameworks that were
yeah,
built upon as ad agencies and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe while we are there, Alvin, we can also just touch on the advent of AI in terms
Yeah,
of the coming in of
definitely.
AI. Yeah.
Yes.
So on the AI bit, what are some of the positives that AI has brought? So AI has really shortened processes in terms of like when business people need to put together certain proposals, when they need to put together certain concept notes, or key things that they want to share with the team, or you know AI has really helped to collapse that. Things that somebody would need a week to do, they can now do in an hour, or they can do in less. And there's a real positive element there that AI is bringing in terms of certain ways of doing things and certain ways of executing. However, my take on AI is that people should always be very specific in terms of how they utilize it, and they should also maintain a certain their voice and their objectives. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can literally see that AI has literally become the person. Like the input here, that person is actually not there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's taking
whereas
over.
where I'm coming from is that let AI aid you, but you must be, the pioneer of that thing, giving voice to whatever it is that, in terms of the objectives or where you want to go. And AI helps you to express it better, or AI gives you more substance in expressing it. But AI shouldn't then become data basaraju. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I feel like
exactly.
there's an element there where people still need to ensure that they are involved in their utilization of AI, so that at the end of the day, we still can hear their contribution and see their value addition. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much has AI actually disrupted the industry, which is most the bad part? Because now you talk about the good part, which is good, but the bad part, what has happened to our industry because of AI?
Mm, You know what? To be honest, like when I'm looking at Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say that I wouldn't really say that AI has impacted the industry to a point of disruption. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean?
mm,
At the moment, I would say if it was a cycle or if it was a graph, I would say it's literally maybe on the second phase. You've got your introduction,
yeah.
and then you've got your growth phase, which is also coupled with people getting to understand the tool and really learn how to really use it and begin to try it out and all that. That's where I would put us in the second phase. I
Mm,
wouldn't say it has it disrupted, Zimbabwe to the point of, real, disruption where, yeah, no, now it has taken over that, or AI, you know, you can see its effect in pockets, of industry, like in the banking sector. It
yeah.
has done very well in terms of, automation, in terms of, being able to, all those voice prompts, all the, how they are able to service people beyond working hours. If somebody's calling or if somebody's trying to access service, they've managed to program it in such a way that the banking sector can be active 24/7. And that's positive. But really, I would say, if you ask me, is there room for it to really penetrate and position itself? There's like plenty of room, probably 70% still more to be brought in terms of impact and real effects within the nation. Yeah. And I'm
Is it?
talking across the board, even across all the other sectors in terms of automation, whether it's the public systems, in terms of how they operate, whether it's the tech system, in terms of how it operates. There's still a lot. You can see that all the key industries are delving into it, but it has not yet come full circle.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective of that because I have no idea how it is like in Zim, but I think that helps us to give an insight of what's happening on the ground. So one of the things that I never understood in the marketing environment or marketing in Zimbabwe is the Marketing Association of Zimbabwe, MAZ. It's MAZ, right? And
Yeah,
I do believe you're part of that. Let's delve
yeah.
into that quickly.
Okay. Yeah, so Marketers Association of Zimbabwe is really it has really become a big force within the market in terms of being a marketing hub. Okay. Um, so how it operates is that it's basically a member-based association where corporates or companies register, like any corporates in Zimbabwe, banks, your general companies, they register with the Marketers of Zimbabwe, with the Marketers Association of Zimbabwe. And what comes out of that is that they've got tiers of membership which is basically your corporate membership or, just ordinary membership, then corporate membership, where each tier comes with several, riders in terms of the value add that you can get from them. And then, of course, each tier also comes with a different cost in terms of that membership fee. But I will talk a little bit about what it can do for a corporate or what it has done for many corporates. The Marketers Association of Zimbabwe engages in various events throughout the year, which bring together different companies, but all the leading companies in Zimbabwe are part of it. So if you're an organization or if you're an individual who really wants to rub shoulders with the who's a who in Zimbabwe in terms of leading companies in Zimbabwe, you really have to sign up with the Marketers Association, because they have events like, let's say, Exceptional Marketers Awards, where they bring together, they would have done adjudication for, campaigns that have been running throughout the year, and they do adjudications to see who executed well, and they have criteria that they use. And you also have like various other, polls that they do to measure the impact of different brands within the market and rank those. Then besides that, they also have several very intentional trainings that they do in sales, in marketing, in PR, basically to equip people within that space to become legible for senior positions. And what we've seen as a trend in the last few years is that the Marketers Association has been influential in pushing, a whole lot of, marketers in terms of senior marketers to take up bigger leadership roles beyond being a marketing director or a marketing executive. So we've seen quite a number of marketers becoming, like CEOs, becoming MDs, becoming GMs, and coming out of the heritage of the Marketers Association. So I would say it's it's a member-based association, a member organization that has grown over the years, and that has grown in terms of the value that it's bringing to its members, and that has become a force within the market, to the extent that you'll find a lot of vacancies in terms of jobs that are flagged. They will actually have a little line that says membership of Marketers Association is an added advantage.
Wow.
Yeah, so you'll find that they now call the shots on quite a number of areas within the market.
I think talking about those institutions that you were talking about earlier on, I think then the MAZ becomes one of those institutions that are going to build a framework around how we do marketing in Zimbabwe and give us guidelines and direction for possible marketing agents like ours, Simple Digital, which is also working in Zim. That's
Yeah,
quite interesting. I want to ask you a
yeah,
question. Since you
yeah.
started working in marketing in the 90s, I want to call it the 90s, right? Since you started working in the marketing space, was personal branding a big thing compared to what's happening now? I've noticed that we have so many individuals that are now delving into personal branding more than anything
Okay,
else. Yeah.
okay.
What do you think
So
about
back
that?
then, yeah. So back then, personal branding was really not a thing. People were more worried about the corporate branding. If you were working for a specific organization, part of your credibility came from how you were positioning the organization that you worked for. And that would become your prime drive in terms of, have I built this brand enough? Have I built the visibility of this brand? Have I allowed this, corporate brand to be a force among its competitors or within the market? That was the primary drive behind, your
Yeah.
position as a marketing manager or, as a head of marketing and stuff like that. But what you find now is that the personal branding has evolved and it has become something very integral, particularly with social media, where you now have your LinkedIn. And when you look at LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a very interesting space which is almost set for personal branding. You can be working for the organization that you work for, but it's almost like it's your space. Even if you're working for Coca-Cola, but you as a brand, Coca-Cola should be almost like secondary to you in terms of, it's almost like how am I adding value to Coca-Cola as opposed to Coca-Cola adding value to me. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So it has evolved. Personal branding has evolved into that space where, stop and look at yourself and how you are positioned. And if anyone was to hire you, what would they see if they go on the internet? And bang, personal branding was born. I don't want people to see, the brand I work for more than see me, So if I'm going to appear with the brand I work for, it should be because I'm leading that team. It should be because I was part of the initiative or I initiated that particular campaign. And therefore, that's why I'm appearing with my brand, Yeah. So
Yeah.
it has evolved into that space because also people are no longer just, out to just win credits from their company that they're working for, but they are also, on the lookout for opportunities to be engaged by other, players in business. So for sure that if you showcase your personal branding through the things that you do, you're likely to be called to speak, at spaces that concern things that are related to what you do. And you would go there not carrying your corporate brand, but you would go there carrying your personal brand.
Personal brand, yeah.
So I think social media and the fact that, it allows us to be ourselves in terms of just, you have your pages, Pamela Guanzura, you have your pages, Alvin, means that Alvin's voice can be loudest. You don't have to be elevating anyone else. The moment you are promoting TechMart, then it's under the TechMart LinkedIn page, not under the Alvin LinkedIn page. Yeah. So, yeah, something happened there and there was a shift.
There was a
And
mind shift.
people realized that actually I can promote me as a brand. Yeah.
Interesting. So currently, I think we've spoken about your history and what you have done up to now, but currently, what does Pamela do?
Okay, so currently I do consultancy within the marketing and media space, and I do consultancy for various players in different, like sectors. And some of the ones that I'm currently doing is actually I'm consulting for a wastewater management company called Kakai, which is really big in wastewater recovery and uses a smart system to recycle water 1:1. So it's something that's really like revolutionary in terms of preserving water. And it's something that I'm pushing quite a bit within this market. Then I also, at the moment, I also have just been appointed to become the chairperson for the board for the African Leadership and Management Academy, which is a board that governs this university, which is an African university that does a lot of, programs that have to do with doctorates as well as master's programs. And yeah, so it's one position that I've just been appointed to, which is a very big position in terms of what it calls for, because it's one thing to sit on a board, but it's one thing to actually be leading that board. So, it's big shoes to fill. And it's exciting
And
space,
congratulations
academic
on that.
space, but yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm in the consultancy space. I also sit on a board where I'm part of a loss management, company that does insurance within the loss management sector, which is called LMCI. And it's a company within Africa as well. It's based in Botswana, but it's here in Zimbabwe, it's in Mozambique, it's in Malawi, and also it's in Angola. So it's that space where literally, because my profession is marketing and communications and
Yeah.
media. I basically consult for different players, but because of the background that I have, I'm able to then tailor make solutions based on the specific sectors, just to help those brands to grow.
Wow. That's interesting. And I want to ask another, this is more personal.
Okay.
You as a specialist in marketing and media, have you had influence on Pastor G as a brand?
Yes, I have. I have had influence on him.
Yeah.
Although, guess what, Alvin?
Yes.
Interestingly, Pastor G is actually, very skewed towards marketing as well.
Really?
In terms
Okay.
of, he does have a very strong skew towards marketing. Although, we do, because I'm in that space. We do a lot of brainstorming, and I do, give him a lot of input in terms of direction for his own brand as well. But very interesting to note that over the years, he has also grown in terms of his knowledge of marketing and his embracing of marketing,
Yeah.
of the marketing space. And he's a very keen, hands-on marketer too.
He was influenced. You influenced him. So I mean he had no chance. So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
became, he
Maybe we
became a
cannot
marketer.
deny that. They say that after marriage, you become one, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, Pamela, it has been amazing chatting to you. Do you have any parting words before we close this
Yeah.
episode?
Okay. Well, my parting words would be, Alvin, this is very, very exciting, the space that you're in. And, I'm really proud of the work that you're doing. And my parting shot would be, please, can you carry on with the initiatives like this? Because what they do is that they always just bring out the little jewels and gems that are out there. So please carry on with this excellent work, because you owe it, to your own generation in terms of your peers, but you also owe it to the next generation, because through forums like this, you always just get nuggets that also shape, the mindsets of upcoming tech guys and upcoming marketers as well. It's been an absolute honor to be on your platform, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this time.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you very much. I'm blessed to have you on the podcast, and you making your time out of your busy schedule and being able to sit with me for 45 plus minutes. I mean, that's something that is I appreciate a lot. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share, engage, and we'll see you on the next episode.